Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. For 14 days now, about 16,000 Nigerian doctors have gone on strike over welfare and sector reform issues, but the negotiations between the doctors and the government has hit the rocks. And usually when this sort of thing plays out, the ordinary people, the average Nigerian, bears the brunt. Take a look at what this has been since the beginning of the month when the doctors down to a timeline of what has happened. From the early part of the month when the doctors went on strike, that on the 2nd of August 2021, when they said they will begin their total and indefinite strike action. Friday that week, the Minister of Labour said on Channels TV that FG will invoke the no work, no pay condition. And on Monday, the doctors were in a conversation with the National Assembly members, and that conversation did not did not end up to a desired result because there was a stalemate. In fact, it went on to the second day. And today is the 14th day of the industrial action by the doctors. So what is the way out of these? Tonight, we shall be finding a way out of this stalemate, and I have joining me a former governor of Delta State who himself is a medical doctor. Former Governor Emmanuel Oduagan. He joins us from Warri, Delta State. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, and it's good to see you again. Let me allow you listen to the the president of the National Association of Resident Doctors when they met the National Assembly members. After that meeting, this was the outcome. Take a listen to them.
I can assure you and this committee that if we have some certain things I can take back to my members who call off the strike. Some are monetary and some are not monetary. The non-monetary, sir, the House Officers circular. That circular needs to be withdrawn. Why are we having these bottlenecks? Because some people are not doing their jobs. It's a set truth. I'll start with UCH, sir. University College Hospital, UCH, employed doctors under gift mix. The first one was in 2019, October. As it speaks now, people under the gift mix platform in UCH is about 901. Those in the budget office can tell for us. 901. There's a list there. I have a list, sir. I have the madam that have been there since January. I saw the list with Nuru. 900 and something people. We didn't have a waiver. The ones you are saying that got a waiver during the pandemic was not in the pandemic.
All right. So that is the president of the resident doctors. But Health Minister was also speaking about this situation. Perhaps Nigerians are looking for the way forward and how government is handling this situation. Take a listen to the Minister of Health. I think we can let you listen to what the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, said. Perhaps you will hear what the health minister says later on. Take a listen to what Dr. Chris Ngige said.
If you go to ILO principles at work, it guarantees a worker right to strike. But it has consequences. Your employer, on essential services in particular, has a right to replace you. He will also withdraw your money, your remuneration, and use it to pay those he has so acquired at those periods you were away. So, Nigeria, being a member of ILO, in our Trade Dispute Act 2004, Section 43, it is there to protect both the worker and the employer.
So all these instruments, you are going to put it into effect fully? 100%.
I will.
Okay, so now
next week I will escalate it because the conciliation has failed. So, and if the law says if conciliation fails, on my own side, I can move it up. Industrial Arbitration Panel or National Industrial Court of Nigeria. I've communicated it to that.
And what
they
does
will
that
not
mean?
receive money for the period on strike. And it will never count as a period for pensionable position in their career.
Is that a fair position?
That's what it is. Even the ILO supports it because they're on essential services. They're not supposed to go on strike without notifying me 15 days to that day of strike.
But
they
did
it.
it. So you heard the president of the NAD, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, and you've heard the labor minister. It doesn't look like we are headed anywhere. But the latest information is that the federal government might take the resident doctors to the industrial court. Let's see if you have the former governor of Delta State, if he can hear me now. Governor Uduaghan, I guess you can, if you can hear me now, so that we can get the conversation started.
Okay, I'm just hearing you now. I didn't
Perfect. It's great to see you. Sometimes it's a hell of a trouble when these technical issues come up. But thank goodness that we can hear you now. So let's get straight to it. But I wanted to take you to the PDP matter before I bring you back into the doctors issue. What happened in your party over the week and how the whole matter ended with the intervention of the BOT and the Governors Forum? What's your view on the matter?
Hello, Sean.
Yeah, please go ahead. I can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, sorry. Can you come again? What were you
So
asking?
the question was about the leadership issue in the PDP, the intervention of the BOT and the Governors Forum, how it ended. It was described by some people as a soft landing for Prince Uche Secondus. Do you hold that view also?
Yes, I think it's a safe landing for him. And I will call it the safest landing for him. Because the way the pressure was going, some, including myself, actually thought they would not, they would put rocks for him to land on. And he may have landed with his head if they had put the rocks. But fortunately for him, they put down a foam. So when he landed on the foam and he wasn't injured. So that was the safest landing for him. And I want to join him in thanking God for getting that safe landing.
But with what has happened, for those who fear that, because some people are wondering what exactly is the fear about wanting Prince Uche Secondus out of office when his time is supposed to expire in December. Did you get that? So I was asking what the fear of people are about Prince Uche Secondus, because his tenure is supposed to end in December. So why would they want him out anyways?
You see, that's why I said he got the safest landing. Now, what that landing has done is to say this man actually he needed to be punished one way or the other. The maximum punishment, which is to allow an offense. Many ways. Don't forget that Prince Secondus has been in the National Working Committee for so many years, even starting from the state level, where he held several positions, including state chairman. So he has also contributed. It was people saw that he was doing fairly well until somewhere along the line he fell out, probably mainly with his strongest supporters, what people call the godfathers, and of course they now wanted him out. And for those who were not and who were not his godfathers, it was a good way for them to come in, and I think a lot of them came in, and that was why he got what to leave in October instead of this is, and I want to, like I said, soft landing.
Seems to be some trouble there with getting to hear you properly because there are glitches and it keeps the network keeps breaking. I'll try one more time. And 2023, the PDP has their eyes in getting back to prominence and getting power at the center in 2023. How bright or dim is that sort of idea?
Please come again.
I said yeah. So the question was the PDP.
That was not too good.
Yeah, members of the
Yes.
PDP are saying, oh, they want to come back to prominence in 2023 and get power at the center again in 2023. But because what we've seen now, how bright or how low is that sort of idea in the scheme of Nigeria politics right now?
Now, if the PDP quickly gets its ass right in the October convention, I hope that by October we will elect somebody or people who can into the National Working Committee that can lead the party to victory. Don't forget, it is not the whole of National Working Committee that have problems. I think some of them, very key members, have problems. So if we're able to get it right, to get majority of the National Working Committee going in the right direction, what's on ground now is very favorable for PDP because right now the other major party, which is the APC, is as good as not being in a position to face any strong opposition. So we are hoping that by October, when we eventually get a new leadership, we'll be strong enough to upturn whatever we had lost before. Don't forget that the PDP has remained PDP from 1998 when it was formed. It has not changed name, it has not changed form, it has not changed whatever. It is the only party that has retained its name from 1998. And Shehu, if you do some investigation, you go to the grassroots across Nigeria, the PDP is still the dominant party at the grassroots across Nigeria. But for some reasons that basically due to the management of the party, we've lost some elections which we would not have lost if things were run properly. So we are very hopeful, we are very optimistic that a strong leadership will lead to victory in the near future.
Let me take you to a very disturbing situation, which is the doctor's strike. I mean, you are a medical doctor. You've been a governor, two-term governor, and you could understand and relate with the situation. You've had a situation where you have intervened, and this is not the first time we are hearing about doctor's strike. Let's get straight to it. A lot of Nigerians are familiar with these problems. The question is the solution. Where lies the solution, Governor Uduaghan?
Sorry, the question is where?
I said, where lies the solution to this lingering doctor strike problem?
Okay, if I can, I think you are asking where lies the solution.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I think you're calling it a frequent doctor strike because I think it
So, sir, that the network is keep frustrating our conversation here. But let's move swiftly to the issue of security in Plateau State. Sad day in Plateau State, with deserted streets now following the gruesome killing of 23 people who were traveling from Bauchi en route Jos to Ikare in Ondo State. 23 others were injured during the attack, while the injured are receiving treatment. 26 others were rescued unhurt. The Plateau State Governor Samuel Lalong has imposed a curfew in Jos North, Bassa and Jos South local government areas following Saturday's attack on Rukuba Road in Jos North local government area of the state. The governor said the curfew became necessary to avoid an escalation of tension in the affected areas and in order to avoid further deterioration of the situation and to protect lives and properties of citizens. The curfew will be from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. starting from today. That's what it looks like there in some parts of Plateau State as we speak. Let's get to get more updates and more information in this situation. I'm being joined by the Commissioner for Information in Plateau State, Mr. Dan Majang. He joins us from Jos, and from our Abuja studio is the former Deputy Inspector General of Police, Mr. Habila Joshak. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. What a sad incident has happened. But let's ask Mr. Majang, what can you tell us? We understand early today there was some kind of reprisals. What was the situation like this morning when some members went out to church and some others thought that they could go about their businesses? Mr. Majang, it does look like you muted yourself. If you can unmute so that we can hear you. All right, let's bring in Mr. Abila Joshak, the former Deputy Inspector General of Police. Mr. Joshak, how would you describe the situation? Plateau State became peaceful. We've seen insecurity situation in that state where there are communal clashes. But now, with what we saw, what's your view of the security situation in that state?
Well, this can be treated in isolation of some of the security challenges that have cropped up and have reared its heads in the past in Plateau State. This particular incident could be treated in isolation because it does appear as if there was a mix-up somewhere. There was some suspicion, of course, in an environment where there's no trust, in an environment where people do not believe that others will protect them, and in an environment where you look out for those you are suspecting to be your attackers, then there's a possibility of a mistaking of identity. This should be treated in isolation of some of the things that have played out in order to get it right.
We understand that there are some suspects have been arrested. How do you, from a police and investigation point of view, how do you handle this kind of situation?
Like I said, this situation should be dealt with in isolation. In isolation, in a sense that reasons where this has happened is like there was a mistaking of identity, not just mistaking of identity, but some people were not very, very cautionary to have gone into an action. It's criminal because you know that these youth that were coming with corpses that have been removed from the hospital for burial, and we learned they were in procession from the Plateau Specialist Hospital to Garabu. Garabu is well known. And they suddenly saw these vehicles, from what I learned and what has been said. These vehicles were 5 Homer buses in number with some individuals, I'm sure, they suspected that they were not going for a mission that would be good for them. And from what they're saying, they were maybe thinking that these people were coming, knowing full well that they organized a mass burial of those people, and they were going to the burial ground, and they were marching on the street on processing, and this happened, and so this should be treated as a criminal, and this also should be treated in isolation, so that those who are responsible will have to account for it.
It's such a sad scenario which played out there. But when a curfew is declared in this manner, give us a sense of the technicalities involved in this and what the aims of this kind of situation is meant to serve.
Here is a community that has gone through a lot of security challenges, some attacks. They said about 3,000 people have been displaced, and quite 500 youth also have not been accounted for since August 2nd, and a lot of houses have gone on fire, and that they felt threatened in Irigwe. Irigwe is that community, I know, out there in Rukuba. And so the situation is very dicey, but having said that, I think that the governor also have also come in very, very swiftly, because the curfew will prevent anybody from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in trying to do a reprisal, because there could be reprisal. For those of them that have gone down, having been suspected, that are killed, those in the hospital, their relations and those that hold the same faith with them would want to vent their anger through reprisal. And when there's a curfew, nobody is expected to be out at that time. And so it's going to help a lot. And I could see that action already taken by the Inspector General of Police today. He is sending the tactical operation unit from Abuja here to go and reinforce the security agencies in that place. The military have also responded, and I'm sure that the security put on ground is very robust, and anybody who attempts to do whatever, I don't think will go scot-free. So the action so far taken is quite commendable.
It is, so I asked that question because of, for those who have been to Plateau State, we understand how sandwiched some of these local governments, the 3 local governments involved, and how it might affect business, because if it's not, the curfew is not in all of the part of the state, then the movement from one place to the other, from one part of the state, might be hindered, and trying to contain that situation, especially now because some of these people said to have been going to Ondo State, the connection with Ondo State, and how the governor in Ondo State said is also trying to get information and that people should stay calm. We're due for a break in just less than a minute, but if you can give us a sense of, I'm very sure as a senior police officer, when you were in service, perhaps you've had your time in around Jos and Plateau area. How difficult is this kind of situation?
Well, it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult because things are muddled up, and but I think that the action that is being initiated is going to quickly restore peace and order. Why? Because not that the youth that were processing were in large number, and they were going for a mass burial, and like as usual, they saw these strange people, and they never asked questions. And for those of them who went to attack, they have to pay for it, because that isn't right. And you know that when you want to get out of the city, the easiest way is for you to drive through the Mararaban Jama'a. You don't have, sometimes you can't get your way free if you go through Rukuba, because if you're going through Rukuba, you're going round to come to the locust, and then you now also join towards Bukuru. And so these youth were also not patient because they thought that there were people who wanted to model maybe with the burial. I'm just thinking so. And so it's a pure case of criminality that I think His Excellency have already taken steps, and then the security agencies have also taken steps, and I think they're on top of the situation, and I believe that they will fish out those responsible. And the governor of Ondo State have said it. He's also calmed the situation by making statements that are very, 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 very reasonable and capable of dousing the tension. And I think in a few days to come, this particular incident will be resolved, but it's unfortunate lives have been lost.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joshak. Stay with us because we'll also be discussing how calm can totally be restored in Plateau State and in some of these areas that this tension has risen. The police have said 20 suspects have been arrested in connection with the Saturday's attack. We'll take a break, everyone. When we come back, Mr. Abila Joshak is still with us, and the Commissioner for Information, Mr. Majang, will still be talking to us on the curfew in Plateau State, how peace can be restored. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our attention is on that situation which happened yesterday, and of course, what the decision of government is today. Yesterday, some travelers were killed, some sustained injuries, some are now being treated, and some were rescued on earth in some parts of Plateau State. And the Commissioner for Information, Mr. Majang, is joining us from Jos. And Mr. Abila Joshak is in our Abuja studio. He's a retired Deputy Inspector General of Police. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. Let me go to Mr. Majang now, who I guess can hear us loud and clear. Thank you so much, Mr. Majang. And it's sad what happened in Jos yesterday. But what can you tell us? Because some information that we're getting is that early this morning, for some who were going to church and some others who were going about their business, there were some kind of reprisals. What information do you have?
Yes, the information that I have is that today people went to church as usual, but as I talked to you, there were pockets of skirmishes in parts of the town, but this has been brought under control. As I talked to you, it was as a result of that we didn't want to allow the situation to escalate, that the state governor decided to extend the curfew on just local government area from 2 o'clock this afternoon to indefinitely. It is not because of the magnitude of the problem, but because of the tension that was brewing, and as a result, for the security to be able to move in, that was why the curfew was put in place. And as I talk to you, the city is calm. The security has taken charge. We just rose from security briefing. The security personnel, security chiefs came and briefed His Excellency, and as I talk to you, not sooner than later, the situation will come to normalcy, and the curfew in a very short period of time, we are hoping it's going to be lifted up.
The very peaceful city of Jos is a bit tense right now. Calm might be a word to use, but it's a relative calm, is it? But what can you tell us? What is the security telling you? We understand that 20 suspects are in custody now. What more do we know from the security personnel point of view?
Yeah, from the security point of view, even the General Officer, 3rd Armored Division, Michael Kobe Cantonment, who also doubles as the STF commander, issued a statement from yesterday, which has been running in the social media and the conventional media, to say that people should remain calm and that they are taking charge of the situation. It's not only 20 people. More arrests have been made from yesterday and today, and we have about 33 people that have been arrested and are being linked to this situation. It still remains at the point of them being suspects until they are tried by a court of competent jurisdiction and found culpable. But as I talk to you, the security chiefs came, and what they have assured Plateau people is that they are in charge of this situation. They have mapped these areas and have taken charge of these areas that are seeming flashpoints, that are seeming volatile. But I can assure you that Plateau people, the situation is much, much better today than it was now, that it was in the morning and that it was in the afternoon, that resulted to the issue of the curfew. Not only that, a lot of consultation is taking place. A lot of community dialogue is taking place. A lot of stakeholders, dialogue with stakeholders, church leaders is taking place at individual and at community level. And we are trying to make sure that those that are held, that are culpable will be punished accordingly.
There is a dispatch of a police intervention team from the IG office to help in this situation. Has the governor received them? And what will be their role? Has there been some kind of handshake between the Commissioner of Police on the ground and this team that is coming from the Inspector General's office?
Yeah, of course, the first point of call is for them to report to the Commissioner of Police. It is the Commissioner of Police that will now link them up with the state governor. But the most important thing is for them to come for the exercise. The governor will only be made to understand, will be made to understand, and he is providing the enabling environment. He is setting up institutions, he is providing whatever logistics that is supposed to be provided, while the police do, while the security do their own bidding, while the securities do their own part of the bid. We are very happy that the Inspector General of Police has been able to do that. As I talk to you, there are going to be helicopter, about 2 helicopters have been drafted for surveillance on the plateau. That will also help in the aerial patrol of these areas to be able to give hope and to be able to try in arresting the situation.
How do you then describe the situation? Because I know you must have been getting information, but the much that you can get, how do you describe what has happened? Because when we heard Mr. Joshak trying to describe it, he said it's criminal, he said maybe a misrepresentation. For the much information that you have, what is the best way to describe what played out? Because of what has been a history of communal clashes in Plateau State.
Yes, the best way to describe it is to say the least is that it is both unfortunate and despicable, because we have been living, we have had quantum of relative peace on the plateau in the past 6 years, 6.5 years or thereabout, since the life of this administration. So the state is taken aback. It is an unfortunate development. It has not happened on this magnitude. Of course, there have been pockets of killings and destruction of farmlands here and there, which the governor has condemned. The governor has instructed the security apparatus to take charge. And me and you know that there are limitations and there are when government is in governance, various aspects of the situation are handled. The governor has done his part, the security needs to do their part, but for the fact of what has happened, we are very, very much saddened. The governor is saddened, the Plateau State people are saddened, because that is not our character, that is not our being. For everybody that knows Plateau State that has an acronym, the home of peace and tourism, tourism does not thrive under this kind of atmosphere. But we are very saddened that we are going to bounce back again. And that is why we have put the institutions in place, and we have been able to take proactive measures the way we have done. Otherwise, today, the situation would have escalated and there would have been no plateau. And it might have even escalated beyond these 3 local governments that we are talking about. It might have escalated to the other 14 local governments, because we have a total of 17. While in the other 14 local governments, nothing like that. We have not had anything, any bad situation. And even in these 3 local governments, it's not all parts of the local, it's pockets of places that are flashpoints in these local governments that we are dealing with the situation. But we have to lump them to make sure that we contain the crisis where it is. To say the least, it is most despicable and unfortunate development that we found ourselves in.
So there is no sense of religious or ethnic undertone at all in all of this?
It is going to be very, very difficult to isolate that. But you know, before you know it, we have tried to, as much as possible, to not to look at it in that dimension. It is purely from the dimension of the fact that of criminality, because criminals do not have religion, criminals do not have they are not politically inclined, they don't have divides. Criminals are criminals, and they join in. What joins them is criminality. And so we wouldn't want to look at it in that direction. We want to look at it in the fact that these are people that have decided to take the laws into their hands, and by the time we profile them and they are prosecuted, we'll be able to look at the dimension. But the dimension of religion, we wouldn't want to touch it with a stick. We wouldn't want to touch the dimension of politics with a stick. It is a criminal act, and it remains as a criminal act.
So can you summarize for us your preliminary observation of the situation based on the investigation and the preliminary investigation and the information or the intelligence gathered by the security agents? Have these people been profiled? Who are they? What more can you tell us? Can you summarize the outcome of the preliminary investigation for us?
Yes, the outcome of the preliminary investigation is that there have been, even on the first day when the Commissioner of Police in Plateau State addressed the press, he did say that there are community leaders that were arrested in the past, because the governor said that he's not going to accept the fact that we would call this people anytime that a crime of this nature is perpetrated, people are killed, and then you see in the social media it is awash by the fact that they were unknown gunmen. And these people are not spirits. Repeatedly the governor has said that, and there's a time that the governor did warn community leaders that if anything happens like that in their domains, they will be arrested. They were arrested, indeed, but they were given out in bail. So the bail situation is being revisited, and so they are being profiled, and some of them have been found to be culpable. Even there are accusing fingers that are pointing to them, even in this circumstance. And so when this happens, the state will not have an option but to go against them this time around. And you know, we had a challenge in the past whereby the courts were no longer sitting, but we are happy that the courts are back now, and we want to call for prosecution so that people can be punished, so that it will serve as a deterrent to others. This is, in a nutshell, the situation that I can say has taken place, the dimension for which this has taken place.
we're getting somewhere with some of this information that we're getting from you tonight, Mr. Mahang. But before I go to Abuja studio to get back Mr. Joshak into the conversation, give us a sense of what is happening with those who are injured. We understand that about 23 or so of them are injured and are receiving treatment, and another over 20 escape without any kind of injury. Have they been profiled? What information do you have with them? Are they okay? Where are they at the moment? Are they still in Plateau State or they are out of town?
Yeah, well, the injured are still in hospital. They wouldn't have been able to be let go of hospital. What the state government has done, even this afternoon, the secretary to the government of the state, the chief of staff, myself, and top government functionaries went around the hospital to look at the injured. And what the state government has been able to do is to make sure that the medical bills of these people are going to be taken care of. The chief medical director of Plateau Specialist Hospital is on top of the situation. He has been directed to make sure that the people are treated and the bill is going to be borne by the state government. As it is, it depends on the degree of injury that they have sustained. But as I talk to you, that is what the state government has been able to do. And we are even talking, the state governor spoke with his colleague in Ogun State, Governor Keredolu, and in Ogun State, in Ondo State. And they are in talking terms, and they are understanding themselves. And very soon, we are putting our heads together to make sure that we send a high-powered delegation to Ondo State to commiserate with the people of Ondo State. We are even also sending a high-powered delegation to talk to Bauchi State, because where the people came from function in Bauchi, so that we'll be able to cement the relationship on the plateau to assure people that Plateau is safe, that they can go about their normal duty on the plateau without fear of any molestation. That is what we have been able to do. And even for the injured this afternoon, as a result of the attacks, pockets of attacks today, the injured are in hospital, and government is taking responsibility for all their medical bills.
Let me bring back Mr. Abila Joshak, the former DIG. From what the commissioner has said and the information that we have now, let me get your expert opinion on the way forward.
Well, the way forward is one, the government should ensure that the peace building activities that have been put in place continued. Because these Irigwe youth that are also caught in this were the ones that have been, shouting that since August, houses have been burned, and 3,000 in that community have been displaced. They've also cried because they've also had some losses. And so you remember that this coincidence is that they were coming out from the hospital with those of them that have that were killed during those incidents, and on sighting these people, they just create suspicion, and they went ahead, because they looked at them, and some must have said, these people are likely to be some of those people that come for us, and then I'm sure they put some question through to them, and they became a little bit suspicious as to why they wouldn't go through the NTA, through Bukuru, and then Mararabanjama, if they want to come to Ondo. And so
with the special team, with the special team, the police intervention team that the IG has sent, in this kind of scenario, what will be their role?
The special team that have been brought in here will form a buffer in the general area where this is happening. They will ensure that they must ensure that, you know, there are people who also are not, well, those of them that have the relations killed, and those of them that also hold the same faith with those of them that were, don't forget that they were coming from an Islamic, annual Islamic celebration for the New Year. And so they have their brothers, they have their people, they have those that they have the same faith. And so these people sent as reinforcement are going to form a buffer zone and to anchor patrol and to ensure that no one does anything that is funny. They're going to dominate the general area, and they're going to assure people also. I think in a short distance, security will be restored, calmness will be restored, and then peace-building activities should go on. But I would like the government also to make sure that they go deeply in ensuring in reconciliation and ensuring that the people must see themselves as one, and you must live together. That must be sunk out seriously, so that this kind of situation cannot continue to occur.
Interesting, Tinaro. I think let's get Mr. Majang final word so that we can close now. Where do we go from here, Mr. Majang, for those who are not able to step out of their houses in Jos and in some parts of Plateau State? Your final word?
My final word to them is that they should try as much as possible to be their brother's keepers. I can tell you that we on the Plateau know how to take care of one another, and the government is taking proactive measures to make sure that it addresses the humanitarian problems. It addresses the issue. There are short-term, immediate-term, short-term, and long-term measures that the government is taking. We don't intend to cause harm to our people. We don't intend to cause pain to them, inflict more pain by keeping them unnecessarily indoors. We are profiling mechanisms to make sure that they are able to get handouts. If we study the situation very soon, tomorrow, next tomorrow, we will find windows. When the situation is assessed, there are windows that are going to be found to allow people to, in these areas that have been engulfed, to find food. More so, the area of concentration is just North local government. For Bassa and Barkin local governments, no, Bassa and Jos South, the curfew period is from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So they may not have, that kind of problem that will be envisaged in Jos North.
Mr. Dan Majang, the Commissioner for Information in Plateau State, we wish the state the very best and are hoping that peace return as fast as possible. Thank you so much for those information and your time tonight. And also, Mr. Abdullah Joshak, a retired DIG of Police, thank you so much for your expert opinion on the program tonight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And just before we go, is there a good time for doctors to go on strike? No, there is never a good time for doctors to go on strike. You know what? When doctors are not available to save lives, it's like a death sentence. And so there is no such a time that is good for doctors to be away from their duty post. It is said that we have 72,000 registered medical doctors in Nigeria. Out of this, only 35,000 are practicing. From that 35,000, 16,000 of them are resident doctors and have now gone on strike for 14 days and counting. The ratio of doctors to citizens in Nigeria is 1 to over 2,700 of the population of over 200 million people. The doctors' demands include better welfare and a fix to the healthcare system, and these agitations did not just start today. It is an age-long crisis that has led to deaths of Nigerians. There is an agreement at the African Union a few years ago for a 15% of budget to go into healthcare. In this year's budget, only about 7% of about 500 billion was budgeted. Doctors leave in droves seeking greener pasture. The rich, the opportune, and the powerful have to fly out of the country to get medical attention. And the irony is, when they get there, sometimes they are attended to by Nigerian doctors practicing overseas, some of whom are reputed high flyers once they get abroad. A big question mark on the state of our health care. Some argue that it is morally incorrect for doctors to go on strike. But again, when they say government is a continuum, does that apply to government keeping its own side of the bargain in labor matters? The way and manner government handles labor relations must change. Sincerity is key here. As a matter of urgency, government must get into talks to save lives. Nigerians don't care who wins or whose ego is bruised. We just want a better country, and we hold government accountable. In the final analysis, it is imperative the government knows how to handle labor relations so we don't get into these sort of crises again and again. It is shameful and needless. This doctor strike must end. And that is my final word tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.